Have you ever found yourself in a quiet moment, staring at the ceiling and posing the most challenging question to the heavens? The raw, honest plea that whispers, "Creator, why did you authorize that person's entry into my world?" They came bearing promises or a captivating energy, only for that initial light to dissolve into a season of utter bewilderment, profound anguish, and a deafening silence that felt like a physical blow. You've wondered incessantly, was this connection a true gift, a destined love, or was it a tactical spiritual maneuver designed to disrupt your peace? I want to challenge you with a profound and rarely accepted truth today. God did not permit that individual's presence in your journey merely to shower you with blessings or, conversely, to inflict punishment. Their arrival was a precise and necessary test, a spiritual examination of the very nature and condition of your heart. What resides within your core is infinitely more significant to the divine than any external circumstance or person surrounding you. That individual who caused so much confusion and pain was not a cosmic error. They were not a random blip on the radar of your destiny. They were a purposeful, living mirror, dispatched directly from the hand of God. Their mission was to reflect back to you the raw, unedited, and often uncomfortable truths about yourself, the truths you were incapable of seeing or perhaps actively avoiding on your own. You are here, listening to this word right now, not by coincidence, but by a precise appointment. This message has intercepted your spirit for a fundamental reason, so I urge you to lean in and focus intently. Every subsequent second of this discussion carries a spiritual key, a tool meticulously designed to unlock genuine understanding, initiate deep healing, and clarify your divine purpose. Before we delve deeper, if you sense the resonance of this truth already stirring your soul, take a moment to engage, hit the like button, subscribe to join this community, and confirm your presence by typing 99 in the comments. Psalm 99 declares, "The Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is holy." In this specific moment, this word is profoundly sacred. It is a crucial spiritual axiom that not every soul strategically placed in your path is intended to become a permanent fixture in your life's narrative. And equally important, not everyone who does stay is meant to provide you with consistent comfort. Some people are divinely positioned as spiritual wrecking balls, their entire function being to provoke a deeper response, to agitate something fundamental, something mighty and necessary that has been dormant or sleeping within your spirit. Understand this foundational principle of the kingdom. Nothing happens by accident or chance. God is the ultimate conductor, orchestrating every life and interaction like pieces on an intricate cosmic chessboard. However, unlike human players, his goal is not merely to claim victory. His primary objective is the shaping and refining of hearts, preparing them for an eternal reign. We encounter people who arrive veiled in gentle warmth and light. They serve as anchors, speaking reassurance to your wounded soul, offering a hand to steady you through the inevitable tempests, and serving as a tangible reminder of God's boundless grace and loving kindness. Conversely, others manifest as the very storms themselves. They enter with disruptive force, shaking the foundations of your established world, shattering stagnant patterns, and relentlessly tearing down the walls you meticulously built around your true self. Yet, the essential, liberating truth is this: both types of people are sent, and both carry a precise, non-negotiable purpose assigned by the divine. We often harbor the misconception that God only operates through experiences that feel inherently good or comfortable to our flesh. But the profound reality is that the most sacred, lasting transformations often commence with the most intensely uncomfortable and jarring disruptions. We must disabuse ourselves of the notion that God exclusively sends messengers with radiant smiles and angelic greetings. Sometimes, to achieve the depth of character he requires, he sends someone whose sole function is to sharply irritate your ingrained pride, whose actions ruthlessly expose your most guarded fears, or who inadvertently triggers raw, unhealed wounds you falsely believed were long resolved. Why would he utilize such a painful method? Because the magnitude of your divine calling, the future assignment he has prepared for you, is too monumental to be built upon a shaky, shallow, or compromised emotional foundation. Before he entrusts you with the elevation of the next level, he is obligated to rigorously test the integrity of what already resides deep inside you. The people you spent restless nights weeping over, the relationships that felt like pure destruction, these were never intended as divine punishments. They were precisely what we discussed, mirrors. They were reflecting, with brutal clarity, the segments of your internal world that were still desperately crying out for the healing, transformative touch of God. The lingering insecurity that paralyzes you, the need for control that stifles growth, the unforgiveness you've carefully tucked away like a hidden thorn. They brought it all to the surface. And here is a sublime mystery of faith. God possessed the power to heal these things in solitary silence, but he chose a public method. He chose to work through them, through that complex relationship, through that moment of betrayal, because he knew that only by letting that person in would you finally be forced to see the shadowy, ignored parts of yourself. They were never a random person. They were a spiritual assignment, a powerful, divine catalyst designed for your awakening. And now we must confront a painful truth we instinctively resist admitting. Sometimes God's love for you is so absolute and fierce that he permits the breaking of your heart, for the sole purpose of rebuilding it into something exponentially stronger and more resilient. Some individuals entered your life specifically to teach you the painful, difficult necessity of grace. Others were meant to violently awaken a sleeping, essential strength you didn't know you possessed. And yes, some arrived as an intense, purifying fire, designed to ruthlessly burn away every attachment, pattern, and impurity that simply does not belong in the next elevated season of your life. You couldn't possibly grasp this perspective in the midst of the pain, but look back now with spiritual eyes. That person didn't just enter your life, they were sent directly onto your spiritual battlefield. And now, the true, ultimate question stands. What fundamental change or strength did their demanding presence awaken within you? Hold that thought securely, because what follows will reveal why your personal reaction to the pain was infinitely more significant than their actual behavior, and why God's gaze was fixed upon you the entire time. The profound betrayal that you still carry, the silent, agonizing wound left open by their lie, their absence, or their shocking silence, this was never just simple pain. It was a precise, measured, divine test, and the heavens were watching your every move. Our default human instinct when we are profoundly hurt is to immediately defend ourselves, to lash out in retribution, to expose the offender, and to ensure they feel the full, crushing weight of their actions. But here is the spiritual mystery. God was never truly testing them. He was rigorously testing you, not your raw emotions, not your memory of the injustice, but the steadfast, unchanging posture of your heart in the desolate aftermath of the damage. True forgiveness is not a reward you grant when someone successfully earns it. It is a powerful spiritual release, a conscious choice your soul makes to prioritize freedom and lightness over the heavy, debilitating chains of bitterness. This is the understanding that eludes most people. Unforgiveness doesn't imprison the person who wronged you. It is a deadly poison that slowly, silently kills your own spirit. Yes, you were betrayed, abandoned, lied to, and deeply misunderstood. But here is the stark, uncomfortable truth. That specific, painful moment was handpicked by the divine to observe what your cultivated spirit would do when confronted by raw, unvarnished injustice. Could you possibly grant forgiveness when no apology was offered? Could you willingly release the immense burden of the pain when the person who inflicted it couldn't even be bothered to acknowledge your suffering? Could you lift your eyes heavenward and declare, "Father, I surrender this. I trust your power to set this right, even if I am never granted the human closure I crave"? The most powerful, undeniable act of profound faith is not the ability to perform a miracle or speak in unknown tongues. It is the simple, radical act of forgiving someone who never said they were sorry. It is the sacred, agonizing choice of mercy over the demanding insistence of memory. It is the act of standing in the presence of your own deep, searing pain and confidently declaring, "You will not define or shape me. I am not the sum of what they did to me. I am a living testimony to what God is currently doing through me." Because authentic forgiveness does not, in any way, excuse the gravity of the offense. It simply makes a spiritual decree. It refuses to allow the offense to dictate or define your future. You were never called to be a vessel of bitterness. You were not created to carry every single insult like some kind of perverse merit badge. You are a chosen vessel, and chosen hearts are held to an incomparably higher spiritual standard. You must choose to forgive, not because they are inherently deserving of your pardon, but because the magnitude of your unique calling cannot possibly afford the crushing, destructive weight of their mistake. And perhaps, just perhaps, this profound need to release was the entire reason for their mission in your life, to scratch the surface of your heart and see what essential substance flowed out. Would it be the poison of vengeance or the purity of virtue, the darkness of bitterness or the light of breakthrough? Here is what the divine audience witnessed. They betrayed your trust, yet you refrained from cursing them. They walked out and ghosted you, yet you chose to intercede for them in prayer. They actively attempted to shatter you, but instead your resulting tears became the nurturing water that fertilized the soil for a stronger, exponentially better version of you. Forgiveness is not the same as selective amnesia. It means achieving transcendence. It is the spiritual act of informing your pain. You are no longer in control of my future. If the adversary can successfully lock your heart within a fence of unforgiveness, he can effectively cripple or delay your destiny. But if you conquer the test, if you bravely release forgiveness with trembling hands and a soul wholly committed to trust, you spiritually disarm the forces of darkness. Now, take a moment to pause. Look deeply inward and honestly ask yourself, what baggage, what resentment, what painful memory are you still tightly clutching that God has repeatedly asked you to surrender and release? The subsequent revelation in this message will expose how your endurance, your necessary silence, and your unwavering patience were not wasted. They were not in vain. Because the spiritual test did not conclude with the necessity of forgiveness, it transitioned into something even more sacred and demanding, patience, and it is at this juncture that most people fail the examination. Some individuals do not arrive to love you. Their purpose is simply to interrupt you. They enter your life like a sudden flash of lightning, all intensity and noise, and then they vanish without a trace, like a fleeting shadow. They make a powerful, intense entrance and execute an exit without any explanation or courtesy. And you are inevitably left stranded, burdened with unanswered questions, with no sense of closure, only the echoing void of silence. You were petitioning heaven for profound peace, but God authorized a period of painful delay. You desperately asked for crystal, clear clarity, yet you were met with profound confusion. And while your flesh was begging for immediate action and movement, God's singular response was a resolute whisper, "Wait." But this is not the passive, empty, aimless waiting that the secular world preaches. No, this is the dynamic, active, spiritual waiting that stretches the very fabric of your soul. It is the test that reveals the true composition of your character when every external factor stands absolutely still. Patience in this context is not a spiritual weakness. It is a profound act of spiritual warfare. Because when the divine permits someone to stir the deepest parts of your heart, only to have them abruptly vanish, he is not being cruel or arbitrary. He is watching intently to see if you will maintain your trust in the author of the story, even when you vehemently dislike the current, confusing plot twist. Sometimes the true spiritual test is not how quickly or gracefully you extend forgiveness, but how deeply and truly you trust him when there is absolutely no forward movement, when the disruptive person is definitively gone, when the door is permanently sealed, when the overwhelming silence screams louder than all your fervent prayers combined. And it is precisely in these desolate moments that the enemy draws near. He begins to whisper corrosive, convincing lies to your weary, waiting heart. You have been completely forgotten. All your waiting was a meaningless effort. God is silent because he simply has no answer for you. But you must recognize that these are the seductive, poisonous lies of the adversary, not the comforting words of your Father. Because while your impatient flesh is demanding immediate answers and closure, your spirit is actively being trained for an unshakable alignment with the will of God. And within that holy, refining tension, the core of your heart is being purified. Every single second you remain in that waiting, the heavens are observing. They are asking, will you maintain your trust in me when I seem impossibly distant? Will you continue to worship my name when the narrative of your life makes absolutely no logical sense to your human mind? Because this endurance, this profound silence, this committed waiting, this is sacred ground where character is forged. When God institutes a delay, it is never an act of rejection. It is always, unequivocally, an act of protection, a divine shield against timing that would be premature and would ultimately destroy the magnificent structure he is patiently building inside you. The person who decided to leave your life, perhaps they were never meant to transition into your next elevated chapter. Perhaps God, in his infinite wisdom, knew their continued presence would inevitably pull you entirely off the course of your destiny. Maybe, just maybe, their abrupt absence was a powerful, disguised answer to a prayer you hadn't even consciously formulated, and that agonizing silence you endured was not abandonment. It was space, sacred, necessary space for your roots to grow exponentially deeper and stronger. This ensures that when the powerful winds of your inevitable calling begin to blow, you will not be easily shaken or fall. Patience reveals fundamental truths that praise alone cannot uncover. It exposes whether your faith is built upon fleeting, unreliable human feelings or upon a solid, committed surrender to the divine will. Because authentic, mature faith does not arrogantly declare, God, I will trust you only when you move. It humbly affirms, God, I trust you completely, even when you choose not to move. This profound test was never fundamentally about the element of time. It was entirely about the enduring nature of your trust. And now here you stand, still resolute, still intently listening, still hungry for the truth of the Spirit. That single fact alone is compelling proof. You are passing the test. But there is one more essential hidden dimension to this reality, a spiritual layer that is almost universally overlooked. What if the Creator was not just testing your trust in Him, but actively preparing and positioning you to become the test in someone else's life? Stay with this thought, because what is about to be revealed will completely flip the script on your entire perspective. You were convinced that God was watching them, weren't you? Watching their egregious betrayal, their blatant lies, their hurtful absence. But what if I told you that they were never the primary subject of the test? The true, central, profound test was always you. Not your superficial personality or your external appearance, but the very essence of your internal character. That person was not sent to console you. They were dispatched to expose you, to relentlessly touch the specific areas of your heart you falsely believed had already been wholly surrendered to God. The arrogance you've carefully labeled as confidence, the deeply rooted fear you've disguised as cautious wisdom, the relentless need for control you've rationalized as good judgment, they came to shake it all loose. And God, in His sovereignty, did not intervene because He perceived a truth you could not yet grasp. There are necessary impurities within you that cannot, must not, enter your next season of elevation. You prayed fervently for breakthrough and asked for spiritual promotion, but the promotion of heaven is always, without exception, preceded by a thorough heart inspection. God knew, before I can elevate them, I must first reveal them. So, He authorized that moment, that friction, that person to serve as the divine mirror, reflecting the exact things you've been studiously ignoring in the silence of your soul. The lesson was never solely about the specific actions they took. It was entirely about the raw, visceral response it activated within you. Did their behavior immediately expose deeply seated jealousy? Did it reveal the hidden offense still buried beneath your practiced smile? Did it awaken a spirit of entitlement, fierce impatience, or the silent, corrosive rage you meticulously hide from the world, and crucially from yourself. God's purpose in testing you is never to inflict shame. His purpose is to rigorously train you, to demonstrate with undeniable clarity that your tongue is not yet fully tamed, that your heart still clenches in defensiveness when your ego is even slightly bruised, and that your peace remains far too dependent on how imperfect humans treat you, rather than how deeply and securely you are rooted in Him, because this is the ultimate truth. The next monumental level of your divine destiny absolutely necessitates a deeper, more refined version of you. A soul that refuses to retaliate with a quick, destructive snap at every insult. A character that will not crumble under the crushing weight of silence. A spirit that does not desperately seek validation from other broken, imperfect human beings. Therefore, God permitted you to walk directly through that intense fire, not for the purpose of burning you, but to precisely reveal what still had the capacity to catch flame. And many of you are still perplexed, asking why the next door to your destiny hasn't swung open. But the profound truth is this: He is patiently waiting for you to successfully pass the necessary test in the very room you currently occupy, not with the applause of human approval, but with the quiet victory of humility, not with the satisfaction of revenge, but with the spiritual triumph of surrender. So I ask you right now to search your heart. What fundamental change did they ruthlessly bring out of you? And what specific impurity is God actively trying to purge from your spirit before He lifts you into your next assignment? Because the final move God makes in your life will not just bring you the necessary vindication, it will send a profound shockwave through everyone who wrongly assumed the pain and disruption would ultimately destroy you. Do not allow hatred to take root for the one who inflicted the wound. Do not waste your energy cursing the person who left you in painful confusion. Do not carry regret for the moment that felt like a complete collapse, because that breaking was the sacred, essential process of your birthing. Thank God for the necessary test. Thank Him for the agonizing silence, for the painful betrayal, for the frustrating delay. Thank Him for the fire itself, because its ultimate function was not to consume you, but to fundamentally reveal the warrior within you. Now you can clearly see the truth. You were never abandoned. You were being anointed. You were never forgotten. You were being strategically forged, and every single action they took with the intent of stopping you only served the higher purpose of shaping you. That period of confusion was an integral part of your calling. That painful delay was a precise part of your divine design, and that difficult person was never a mistake. They were a sophisticated divine strategy, because now your heart is undeniably wiser, your spirit is sharper and more discerning. Your soul is steady and unshakable, and the mission you are called to is unstoppable. You are no longer merely surviving the test. You are carrying the indelible, visible mark of the chosen. God did not bring you through this entire, difficult journey to leave you shattered in pieces. He brought you through this far to raise you up in demonstrable, undeniable power. This is not the end of your story. This is your activation. This is a profound turning point for your spirit, a holy and seismic shift in your entire atmosphere. Walk differently, pray deeper, love with more ferocity, and rise higher than you ever thought possible, because you were never designed to crumble into dust. You were created to conquer. Heaven sees your endurance. The forces of darkness fear your resilience, and the earth is about to bear witness to the magnitude of power released when a soul successfully navigates and survives a period of divine testing. Now, type these words into the comments below. I receive. Let that declaration echo with absolute conviction in your spirit. Let it act as the spiritual seal on this profound moment in your heart. Don't simply watch, declare it, speak it into the atmosphere, and permit God to fully complete the refining work He started in you. You are ready, you are chosen, you are unstoppable. Amen.